All right, welcome back everybody. We've almost got our startup code ready to go. We've got a few more details to work with and then we'll start moving on to the next part. Okay, so first of all, let's just do some house cleaning. When we're doing this, we're reading the button here and we're gonna wanna know whether this button works or not. So I'm gonna actually come below this line of code and just put in a quick serial.print. I'm going to add ln so it prints and goes to a new line every time. And I'm just going to print the limit switch state variable to see if what's being stored in there is actually changing from high to low. And then this prints the value in limit switch state. And then I'm actually going to just control / and comment that out for now. We'll only need this if it isn't working when we try to make it work. So your first time running this code, it's going to have water, so it's going to draw the syringe out until it hits the limit switch and clicks the limit switch. Be ready on the battery. If it clicks that limit switch and keeps going, you know something's wrong. Unplug the battery really quickly so it'll stop the motor. You have to manually wind the syringe back in halfway, and then you can uncomment this serial print and start testing your button. All right. So that's that. So that's a good thing to have in there. And then we've got a few more things we need to deal with. One is that attached to your antenna at the top, your radio transmitter, there's an RGB LED. And that's an RGB LED. It has 4 legs instead of just 2. What it is inside this LED is actually 3 different LEDs. There's a red, a green, and a blue. Hence the RGB LED. All 3 of those lights use the same ground wire, which is the longest wire coming out. That's the common ground. And then one of the wires is for red, one's for green, one's for blue. I think the one that has just 1 wire on the side of the ground, I think that's red. And then green is the next one over and blue is the far outside one. Although I might have that backwards. You can use a button battery to figure it out when you get to that point. All right, so let's see. So we're going to be able to use this on top of the float to tell us from the side of the pool what mode we're in and what's happening. So we got to choose some colors. If you're wondering what colors you can choose, if you click on here onto a web page and just go like RGB, whoops, that's reg, RGB color selector or something like that, it'll actually give you something here that will show you very slowly, apparently. There we go. We can start pulling this around and see what the RGB values are. And you'll notice that if you come here to white, where's white at? I don't know. I don't like this one. Oh, I have to drag this over here. If you, I just click instead of drag it. So white ends up being, if I can get it all the way in the corner, what a nuisance. I don't like this at all. It ends up being 255, 255, 255 is the most white. This one's still got a little bit of green left in it. Let's see if I can do that. 255, comma, 255, 255, 55. I've got an N in there for some reason. Let's get that out. So that's the widest white we can have. So that's kind of cool. And then so this is how bright the red is, the green is, and the blue. When they're all the same intensity, it's white all the way down through grays and blacks. If one of the colors is more intense than the others, then it's a different shade of color. So you can kind of go through here and pick stuff. We're going to try to stay focused on really different colors. So 255, 0 is like this sort of fuchsia color, and 00 is just red. If we go 0, 000 for our LED is off, not black, because there is no black. But if we do a 255 here, we'll get a green color because that's the RG, that's the G color. And then you can do the same thing with blue. So we'll play around with all of those doing that. Also, HTML color picker might be a better approach. You can kind of just see what these different color values give you and just play around with, you know, what colors you want your light to be. All right. So let's go back to our coding, and we're going to need to actually add in some code for turning that RGB light on. To do that, we need to define which pins we're using. So up here with the pin stuff, I'm going to say integer red LED pin, and I'm going to set that to some pin number. Now these pins, because we're going to be setting their brightness levels, they can't be regular digital pins. They've got to be the PWM, the little tilde pins. So you got to find 3 pins that work for you there. I'm not going to define which ones it is for you. You can make that choice. And then this sets the pin of the red leg of the RGB LED. Okay, so I've got that going. I'm gonna need 3 of those, 1 for red, 1 for green, and 1 for blue. So I'm just gonna fix this to green. Copy and paste that over to my comment, and this one to blue. Awesome, now I've got my variables made. I can come down here and do a pin mode for them because I needed to make them output pins because they're normally set to be input pins. So I'm just going to grab this line of code here. Oh, I said pint here instead of pin. Let me fix those real quick. Oh, typos. Recopy that because I don't want to have that same typo there. I'm going to need 3 of these as well. And instead of that, I'm going to do red LED pin in this one, green in this one, and blue in this one. All right, so we've got our output pins set for those 3 pins, whatever numbers we chose, and now we need to actually turn them on in a certain way. So to do this, we're going to actually create another function like this, because we're going to want to reuse this code over and over again, turning lights on, but we don't want it to copy and paste 3 or 4 lines of code just for changing the color of an LED. So to do that, we're going to come here and create right below void water out. Find that ending curly brace for it and hit enter, enter. Gives here some space, and we're going to do void again to define that we're creating a function here. It's not always void. We'll have an example in a second where it's not void. And then this is RGB LED. We're going to call it that. Although you could call it anything you wanted. And then we're going to open with a curly brace. So open close parentheses. The open close parentheses is what defines it as a function, as reusable lines of code. And now to turn the LED on, we're going to have to do 3 lines of code. We're going to do let me find it real quick, make sure I'm doing it right. Oh, there it is. Yep, good. 3 lines of code. We're going to do an analog write. Now, normally we do a digital write for high, low, off, or on, but because we want to vary the brightness, we need to use an analog write. When we use analog write, we can have anywhere between 0 and 255 as our values. So we're going to be able to do that, and I'll do that in just a second. So inside analog write, we need to have 2 things. First of all, our pin number. So we're going to do the red one first. So I'm going to come up here and grab my red LED pin. And then we're going to have to tell it how bright to make the LED. And we're going to want to feed this in from inside our program. So we're going to need to make some variables for this. I'll show you how to do this. Is a special kind of variable. All right, so we have our LED pin. That's what we're going to be turning this on at. And then we got to tell it a value here, somewhere between 0 and 255. But we're going to want to change that value when we use this function later on in our code. So here's how you do that. You're going to create a variable inside this space in here, int, and we're going to call this red val. And that's the value that we want the red light to be turned on at. If we want it super bright, we do 255. If we want it off, we do 0. Anywhere in between is different brightnesses. Okay, and we're going to need a value also for the green and the blue light. So I'm going to put a comma here to separate my variables, do another int, so I'm creating this variable, and then I'm going to say green val. The names of these variables isn't important. You can name them Bob and Susie. It just wouldn't be very helpful. And then INT one more, and we're going to do a blue val. Whoops, no space. And now we can use these down in our code in here. So red LED pin, I'm going to copy and paste this variable. I'm going to put it right here, red val. And then I'm going to do here that this tells Arduino how bright the LED should be. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste this line of code and add 2 more of these, one for each color. So there, whoops. Now I'm going to go through here and just update the color values. So I'm going to hit here, and this one's going to be green. And then update this red to green. And then this is blue and blue. All right, now I'm going to do a quick just test. I'm not going to try and upload the code to an Arduino. I'm just going to do a verify for looking for errors. I'm positive. Oop, there it is. I'm positive there'd be an error. Let's go figure it out. Let's see. Blue LED pin. Let's go find the first one. Error int green LED pin. Oh, I did not put any semicolons up here. Oh, I did. Oh my God, what a rookie mistake. All right. Oh, no, I'm going to throw errors. I do need semicolons, but I'm going to throw errors on these guys because they don't have numbers on them. So semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. And then I'm going to use, I don't know, I'm going to use 9. I got to put something in. I don't know if these are PWM pins, so don't cheat and use mine. Use the ones you're going to plug into. Let me redo that real quick. Awesome. So we're free and clear. So that's our void. It's our RGB LED. In the next video, I'll show you how to. Well, let's just do it right. Actually, it'll be pretty quick. So now we're going to call this right here, so we know that we're in this mode of going high. And let's set this value. Well, you can do whatever color you want. I'm going to set this starting one. Here we go. To red. So I'm going to do this. RGB underscore LED. Well, that's not right at all. I'm actually come up here and grab the mode, or grab it from here. I'm going to grab the name here. Control C. Control. Okay. I think my keyboard just died. Give me 1 second. Oh my gosh. All right, so I'm going to do this as RGB LED with parentheses, and then a semicolon here. Now, I need to tell it how bright to make the red, green, and blue lights. In this case, we're going to just put them in here, the numbers 255, comma, 0, comma, 0. So that's red on, green off, blue off. So this is a bright blue LED, or bright red LED color. So turns the LED red. Awesome. And that's all it takes, because we have those lines of code up there. It's going to take these 3 numbers, and it's going to jump up, find this function we created. It's going to put 255 in for red val, 0 for green, and 0 for blue. So that number is going to flow here, 255, 0, 0, and it's going to analog write those 3 to the thing. So it's a really cool way to have one line of code run multiple lines of code. It's called a function. All right, one last thing. So after we do this for loop, I'm going to put another color down here. I'm going to change the LED after this for loop so that we can then do some diving. I'm going to turn it white. So I'm going to go 255, 255, 255. And this turns the LED white. That way I know that here it's pumping water. It's pulling water in, pushing it out, and when it's done with the setup mode, it turns white. That way I know it's gonna start doing its next mode soon. All right, we got one more video for this startup stuff, and then we'll move on from there.